right now. This is Recruiting EQ, episode number 59. I'm always incredulous at the episode number, but I'm especially so today because that means we're close to episode 60, which is bonkers. And this is our month-end sales panel, which, of all the crazy things we have tried over the past couple of years, this is consistently our most popular thing that we do. Most popular theme that we do is the month-end sales panel. And we've got great panelists here today. We will get in around the room in just a moment. But yeah, this is a What's Hot, What's Not, April 2025. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Let's go around the room and introduce ourselves, starting with Monica.
Hey, I'm Monica Bloom, and I spent about 15 years in staffing. So I was a recruiter, and then I grew to be regional director over a team of sales and recruiters in San Francisco, grew that business. And then, but underneath it all, I'm actually an Ayurveda teacher and coach, which is the science of longevity based on who you are as a unique individual. So I used the Ayurvedic principles of keeping my team happy, healthy, productive, and growing. And in the meantime, I've written some books and YouTube and podcasts and things. So I'm like the well-being person in staffing and recruiting.
Thanks, Monica. Is that all? Just some books and some vans and some staffing. And
I didn't even mention the van. We'll get to the van. Yeah.
Kevin, you want to take it?
Yeah. My name is Kevin Ramalingam, Managing Director at Total Match Consulting. I have about 15 years of experience in recruiting and staffing in the GTA Canada, about 20 plus years in sales, holistically in various industries. Right now, I manage a team of sales recruiters, BD 360, and we are focusing on technology, marketing, finance type roles. Jumped into the United States market as well recently, which we're really excited about that. Yeah, absolutely. There's lots happening in the States, Monica, right?
Yes.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it's definitely an understatement.
Sweet. Thanks, Kevin. Ian?
Hi, my name's Ian Ewell. I've been in the staffing industry, I guess, 17, 18 years now. I've worked for small startups. I've had my own recruitment company for 6.5 years, sold that in 2019, worked for large global companies as a VP of sales. Sales has always been a big piece of what I do, where I sort of gravitate towards. And recently, last year, took over as president of Greenlight Tech Staffing. So we're in scale mode. I live in Calgary, Alberta, on the west side of Canada, but my entire team is in Toronto, which is unique. And I think we might even talk about a little bit of in-office work from home stuff as well, just sort of how people are finding that. But yeah, pleasure to be here. Always happy to talk to Rick and the people that like Rick. So yeah, happy to be here.
Oh, shucks, Ian. Thanks, man. We're heavy on the Canadian content this time. Monica, you're our only U.S. guest, which is not usual.
But I always provide the balance.
That's true. You're guest enough for multiple U.S. people, which is amazing. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Coluccio. I'm the SVP of Raymond George Consultancy, which is an international rec-to-rec. And I am also the host of this weekly program where you can join us at 12 p.m. EST every Wednesday, talking about all kinds of stuff on Recruiting EQ. One quick disclaimer before we dive into the actual questions for today, which is if you are watching this live, it is going out live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on X, the ever complicated X. So if you're there, please comment. This is a great forum to ask our wonderful panelists questions, have comments, have anecdotes, have suggestions, have opinions. Usually we get great participation on this show and on this sales panel particularly. So do not be shy. I will say that we are not on those platforms though, right? We're somewhere else. So you cannot just give us sidebar messages, which I've seen has not really worked out well. Also, if your comment is super long, it's probably going to get cut in half over here. We will happily read through the comments when there is a lull in the conversation, but we're not going to name anybody because obviously this is a live program. You're supposed to be at work right now, so maybe you're going to get in trouble if we name you. So we don't want to get anyone in trouble. So no naming for the sake of privacy, but please do comment and don't be shy. Disclaimer over. Let's get right in it. What are you guys seeing in the market right now? Problematic question, probably. Who would love to throw their hat in the ring for that one to get us going?
Yeah, I can
Not
jump
all at
in
once.
right there. Are we seeing anything?
Yeah, exactly. Crickets. Yeah.
Anyways, I think ebbs and flows, highs and lows, right? I think in staffing, I think that's the mantra that we all live in, anyways. But now more than ever, I feel like there's so much uncertainty, even in the first quarter of this year, where it was hot to start for me at least, and then I was crickets for about a month, and then people are coming back again. So I don't know if there's one real reason why, at least in the Canadian market, but it's interesting. And then to speak to the people that are looking for work, there's a lot of discounting their own personal growth just to get employed. I don't know if you're seeing that in Canada. We're also seeing a lot of people grasping for work to stay in the country. So it is volatile, to say the least, from my perspective. I don't know about you guys.
The term that keeps coming up for me is momentum with caution. So it was a bit of a slower start to the year for us. Clients were very cautious about what was happening in the States, tariffs, 51st state, all of the things that have sort of caused some disruption in the market, and they were unsure of how it was going to affect them. So we were seeing a lot more requirement for approvals, more gates to go through. Budgets were being looked at more intensely, and it was this sort of constant revamping, like almost had to check in weekly to make sure that recs were still live and they were still happening. So, starting to see a little bit of a loosening of the belt. I think people are starting to settle into a little bit of what this reality is like right now. Some clients that had put projects off or had put hiring off as sort of back burner are now starting to come through and say, okay, this is what we really need, and they're coming to market with what they know they're going to need. They don't want to talk about hypotheticals or like what they could need in the future. It's just very much here and now. So it's very much in the moment, I think, week to week, month to month.
And you guys are both tech staff, like IT staffing.
Yeah.
Kevin, are you doing contract as well for the most part, or is it perm or both, or?
We do both. And we also jumped into a few of the adjacent industries or types of roles like finance and digital marketing. We saw a real big spike in those areas last year for us. So, and they really infuse really intricately to technology. So, but yes, we do contract and permanent staffing.
Nice. And Monica, I guess we'll have to put you in charge of representing the whole of the United States, since you're the only U.S. representative here. So on behalf of the entire U.S. market,
well,
how are you seeing the market?
It's also kind of silly. So I've been actually out of staffing for about a year and a half to focus more on the well-being business side of things. But, I think it always, when I did my best, I'll just share this. When I did my very best in staffing, it was my very, very favorite and best part was in like 2008, 9, 10, when there was recession and people were like out of jobs, especially in LA, hit the advertising and entertainment industry really, really hard.
Right.
And I didn't have jobs for them. I just didn't. And I was, we were staffing. So most of what we did was contract. And so I fielded a lot of calls from very panicked people.
Yeah.
And I think that can happen, to Kevin's point, like the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of staffing and the market. It is what I tried to provide on the other end of that call. If I didn't have a job for somebody, which usually I did not, but for the few that I did, I fought really hard to try and get them back out. And I would make calls to my clients, be like, they're too good not to be working. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? They're too good not to be working. Get this person working. But really, I tried to even out their ride. So I always had it in my mind, I want to get people jobs. My job is to get people jobs. It affects their livelihood, their mental health, their everything. It matters to people a lot to get a job.
Absolutely.
But if I can't do that, at least I'm going to field their calls. I'm going to even out their ride. And hopefully I'll hang up the call and give them a tip or two so that they have some action items to keep going. And I think that is applicable in any market. at any time. And so that's the human side of things that you'll get from me. It's just like, how can we even out their ride? How can we help some of that panic? And if we can't, it's up to them as an individual to even out their own ride, but at least we can be something for them in really hard times, especially if our desks are slow. Like, what a great opportunity to build relationships with people when your desk is slow.
Great point.
Come on, we're not going to the gym.
Absolutely.
You do that before you go to work. But
Absolutely.
get on the phones with people. Like, yeah, I'm slow. What are you seeing out there? How are you feeling? Best question a recruiter can ask sometimes is, how are you feeling? And then as a recruiter, you know what you're dealing with.
Yep. That's a very good point.
And Monica, to add to that too, so having gone through a few recessions over my career, the same is true on the client side. A lot of salespeople disappear when their clients don't have jobs. So when I had my my recruitment company with my business partner back in, there was a sort of a more of an Alberta-based recession in 2016, 15, 16. And we just decided, okay, we are not going to disappear from our clients. We're going to get in front of them even more. We're going to take them for coffee, maybe over lunch or dinner, but we're going to spend time getting in front of them, learn what is happening in their world, and show them that we care, because we do. We want to get a sense of where they're at. Gives us better market intel to go back to our candidates with, and build those relationships. And once the market turned, we had relationships. We weren't scrambling to rebuild a relationship. We had it, and they came directly to us. And we always had banner years coming out of slower markets.
That's amazing. You can even, one of my favorite things to do during those slow times also is like find out their wishes. Like, okay, well, after this, like, what are your wishes? Like, what do you want to see? How do you want to build your team? Pretend there's not a recession and you have no money. What would you do if you did? Because if you can understand where they want to go, you can start planning to get ahead of that for them and, interview candidates or whatever. Like, we're powerless if we don't know the dreams of somebody else.
That's right.
Yep.
But if we have the dreams of somebody else, we're like, now we're cooking. Let me see how close I can get to creating that for you when the time is right.
You know, Monica, it's funny you bring that up, actually. And I wanted to segue to another thing. But for a sec, it's funny. I've done that with people that I had as candidates for a while. And sometimes they don't admit what their dreams are to you right away. But then, like, one day they just will. And they'll say, I haven't been telling you that this is really what, but I thought it was stupid or whatever else. And sometimes they're so doable, like so realistic and doable. Like one in particular, candidate in particular, who I thought was great, who was in tech and wanted to get into finance and like kind of did that a little bit and was, didn't know where to land, couldn't really find a home where she was super happy, but she was just excellent in every single way. Ultimately, what she wanted to be in was like luxury brand recruitment, and didn't realize that there were agencies like 24/7, for example, or whatever else that exist. And I was like, I'll send you to a couple, but here's some other, like, this is a whole thing. And she's like, what? That's an option? Like, why did you wait 2 years to tell me that? Like, it's such a doable dream too. And she just thought, yeah, it's dumb. I'm not going to say it out loud. Like, it's amazing how people do not know their options out there.
I mean, just one more thing here to Ian's point. I mean, it's the sales 101, right? Touch points, and trust is earned. I think over time, when you continuously are there to ask questions, to see how they're doing, ask them personal questions because you got to know them. That's when Monica's question it resonates, right? It's like, wow, Kevin's followed up many times. He's not just wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And he's in it to win it with me. So let me just divulge my, who I am, what I want. And that comes really effortlessly at that point when you do the process of sales, right?
Yep.
Authenticity is such a big part of what we should be doing, right? Because it differentiates us, right? It's so easy to spot somebody who is just dialing for recs, just like, give me a rec. But when you authentically are interested in someone, they like to talk about themselves. Yeah. I think they want to share more about themselves when they feel like it's something that you authentically want to know about. So it's very much about human connection. That's what I mean. When I got into this industry, I never thought for a second that I had even an ounce of salesperson in me. And I did one of those tests for the company that I first started working for. They're like, your sales is through the roof. And I was like, no, your test is broken. It's not right. But it's connection, it's problem solving, it's relationship. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, I could do that. That's not a problem. Like, I actually love that. That's part of who I am as a human being all around. It's not just a work thing. So I think, if you're going into it with the mindset of like, okay, I'm just going to like pretend that I'm interested so that I can get information so that I can get a sale when things turn around, that doesn't work. People smell that a mile away. But if you just go in with the mindset of, my only goal is to get to know this person, this person in my network, who they are, what they're about, what their own career journey is. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about all of the things that are part of your life. That is going to drive sales.
Can I add something else? I was going to write it down, but let's just talk. Maybe.
Just dive in.
Go for it.
Let's do
So
it.
the other thing about the other side of dreams and like reaching out to your people is their obstacles. What are your dreams? What are your obstacles to your dreams? And a lot of times they're like budget.
Yeah, for sure. Money.
I ain't got no money. I have a toxic employee that I can't get rid of. Like that stuff comes out on our phone calls.
Oh, for sure.
So I think it's important, dreams and obstacles, and asking both of those questions of your clients and of your candidates. And I used to tell my candidates, well, just give me the top 3 places that you want to work in Los Angeles. And if you don't tell me your dreams, there's no way I can help you create them at all. So you might as well just tell me. We got 5 minutes.
Yeah. T-minus 5 minutes to your dreams.
And some people might not even know what their dreams are because they don't even access that part of themselves, right? So that could open up a whole other channel too.
Nobody asked that question. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, yeah. Anyways, your resume looks like this. You've done this. There's no way you can possibly do this until you get into it. And then you're like, this is expansive, just like Rick was saying.
Well, it's true. Like, and just look at recruitment. I mean, I have the privilege of recruiting recruiters. It is hard as hell, but I love it because it's the only kind of recruitment which is peer recruitment, right? I'm recruiting my peers. So we're just talking shop mostly, right? And talking about life. But, people don't choose recruitment usually, right? It chooses us in some sort of way, cheesily, or however you want to say it. People have tried other things or done other things. Like I got into recruitment in my, at the age of 32. You know what I mean? I was pushing 33 when I started recruitment ever so long ago. And it's like, it just came out of nowhere in my life. So I also understand very, very on a firsthand basis how what you did yesterday isn't necessarily what you're going to love doing tomorrow, even in your 30s, well into your 30s. I changed careers very drastically from somebody who was mostly invested in doing the music business and doing sort of sales on the side to actually just being all in recruitment and doing music on the side instead. You know what I mean? And this is possible out there if you're open to it. Let's take a question while we have a lull, and I'll stop talking for a second. What do your guests suggest a salesperson do when a contact is literally too busy to even have a conversation? Perhaps this person is constantly traveling, etc. What do you guys do when someone's like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm always traveling. I can't talk to you." What's your?
Oh, for me, I'd give them like breath work. I mean, like, oh, you're stressed. Here's a good tea. Here's a breath work. Here's a podcast I like. Here's a meditation. I'd be like, I'll reach out in 4 weeks. How's that sound? Okay, bye.
Yeah. And do you do this like on the phone or do you email it? Like, let's say
it depends on the method of connection. If it's LinkedIn, I'll go there. If it's email, I'll go there. If it's on the phone, I'm like, ooh, I got this thing I'm going to send you. You need to chill out. Here, I'll help you calm your mind. I'll talk to you in 4 weeks. Okay. Hope you're doing good. Bye.
Awesome.
And I do. And then I always follow up. They'll be like, there's that crazy recruiter who just gave me breath work and tea.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say that I've ever given anybody breath work. I wonder what that response would be like from me. I love it. I love the idea.
Yeah.
You guys do you could do the rest.
I think that so much of it, I mean, you're not every single person you're going to be able to create an authentic connection with, right? I think if your goal is to do that with 100% of your clients, it's going to fail miserably, because not everybody wants that. So it's a lot of it is trying to be in tune with what your clients are looking for in the relationship. Some people will want the authentic, how are you? Let me learn about your life. Let me learn about all the things. Other clients will want to be transactional. And so if you go into a client who wants a transactional relationship with authenticity and like wrapping your arms around them, they are not going to want to work with you. So some of it is adjusting your expectations and your approach. I think for somebody like that, if they're really busy, like Monica said, finding something that is like a reason to connect with them that is relevant to them, that they don't see as a burden, they might see as a value add, like something about the market or something about a competitor that would be of interest to them. Trying to connect in a way that grabs their attention. And if you get a chance to ask the question around like, when do you think your schedule is going to slow down again? I want to be respectful of your time, and ask for permission. And if they really don't give you the time, then maybe that's your answer for a while. Put it on hold, leave them be for a little bit, go focus on some other folks, and then follow up. But follow up, absolutely, like Monica said, the biggest differentiator in our industry is doing what you say you are going to do. Most people don't.
Yep.
If you follow up, you are different than the majority of the recruitment professionals that are out there.
Absolutely. The only thing I'll add to that would be, just being genuine and research, right? Like, I mean, sometimes you call into people and you just don't know who they are, and you don't know what day you caught them on. But if you add some value as to like, oh, well, I read up that your company was doing this. How does that affect you? And then ask for follow up and when and how to follow up. I think that's important. But just being genuine, right? Like, I don't want to bug you. This is not my intention. Breathe in, breathe out. You know what I mean? But like that kind of stuff, I think resonates with people over time. Maybe not in the first one or two interactions.
I like Julie's response there too.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll name Julie. We can name Julie. She won't get in trouble.
I should never.
No, it's okay. Just
Julie, I hope I didn't get you in trouble.
So Julie Robinson, who is the owner of Raymond George, who we all know and love, said clearly they need some help, which is a great point. Sounds like a contractor type solution. And this brings me to, and I agree, that's a great point. Because I think to the person who commented this, I get it, right? Like I worked tech sales jobs. I worked telemarketing jobs when I was like in college, you know what I mean? To pay for like my record launches back in the day. And there is a sales mindset when you're navel gazing and you're in sales land, right? You think I'm bugging people. So if someone says I travel all the time, I'm busy, you think, oh crap, I got to wait till they're free. No, you don't. You absolutely don't need. They're at work. They travel for work. It doesn't matter if they're traveling. Who cares? If they travel all the time for work and you are bringing them something relevant, that's just their life. It's okay. It's just an excuse. It's not a big deal, right? So I had this sales trainer who had two things they told us. One of them was the only rebuttal you ever need is different versions of this sentence, which is whatever the rebuttal is, you're like, perfect. That's why I'm calling you today. Whatever it is, right? So in this case, it's like, oh, I'm busy, I'm traveling all the time. Perfect. What can I take off your plate? Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? What can we do? When can we book a time to talk about how we can get you less busy in some way? Whatever the problem is, because it's just, if you look at it as a problem solve, right? And the other, what was the other one too? Oh yeah, it was to say that sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. So that was his definition of sales. It's transfer of enthusiasm from you to them. You're never really selling a product because that's not sales. If someone needs a product, they're buying a product. You just happen to show up that day, but you're not selling them anything. They're just going to buy that product either way. If you're selling something, you're excited about it. And so it makes them, it's like infectious, right? So I think that's, as soon as you're like, oh no, I'm bothering this person, you shrink, there goes all your enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing to sell. But it's just about remembering, it's just kind of like, I'm calling this person at work for work to add value. Like it's okay if they're busy. Like it's not a problem.
From personal experience, that is how Rick operates. I've been on the receiving end of that.
It's true. It's true.
Who wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of a transfer of enthusiasm?
Right? Right?
Yes.
That's a great term. I'm going to use that. That's a good one.
So I have Post-it notes written. I have this one that I wrote this morning on my thing, but I think I need to be like transfer enthusiasm.
Yeah. Always be delicious is amazing. I need to work on my deliciousness. I don't know that I'm
don't
really
be crabby. Come on. No, like crabby.
Yeah.
That's my motto. I read that to myself every day. Always be delicious.
Exactly. And you're like, am I being delicious? Check. Okay, what did I put as questions for this thing on our I've already lost my way. So we didn't really touch on this too much, but you guys all mentioned it, which is something that you have in common. This wasn't the plan for today, but in addition to sales, all three of you are entrepreneurs. All three of you have been in staffing, but have started a venture. Ian, you started one, sold one, went big, and then now are in another entrepreneurial venture. Monica, you've gone off and started your own company. Kevin, same thing. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, is the differences and the similarities to what you do in reaching out to people when you're in an entrepreneurial setting versus when you're in a big company? Or how do you feel about being an entrepreneur right now in these crazy times?
It's lonely.
Is it?
Yes.
That's too bad.
It's lonely. It's it's just like solo. It's like a solopreneur for me, right? Like It's like everything is me. Like that's why I love my chat GPT, because she actually helps me. But there's, everything. It's everything. And I like people. So right now at this phase in my business, I have found it to be a bit lonely and isolating. And then what happens is I get on phone calls with my friends and other people, kind of disguising that I'm doing work, but I'm really just on calls.
There.
So there's my truth. And at the same time, I'm still working and doing things. But I tell you what, it's so much more fun when there's people involved, which is why I'm making the van.
Right.
Yeah.
Face-to-face human contact.
Yes. So I'm building an emotional and mental well-being van for Los Angeles area, especially after the wildfires. And that is because a couple things is because we're all remote. There's a lot of companies that are still remote. We can talk about that if you want to, but also it's for me. It's for me too. I do the Zoom calls and all that stuff. That's all great, but I really miss the in-person. So that's where I'm at in my business. And I'm starting to take everything that I've done, podcasts, YouTube, books, blah, 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 all those things that are very digital. And now I'm I want to feel in my five senses what it's like to be with people on a daily basis. I want to see their eyeballs, and I want to watch their faces light up and change, or whatever they're going to go through when they're going through the experience in the van. That's me.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, my team is spread across Canada, and I speak to them like this, right? I'm in virtual calls all day. So I have an extreme urge to network. So I go out to events, I look for events all the time, and it's not always just business related. I mean, I just like hearing what people have to say. I mean, if it's candidates that I'm speaking to or what have you, or if it's just me at a new technology event that's hosted by ex-client, I don't care. I just want to be in front of people as much as possible. I mean, twofold, that's exactly what I need to do as an entrepreneur to scale, right? It's just to network, link, connect the dots and things like that. But yeah, it is a little bit lonely at times, and you're constantly busy. You have to be busy. Wearing 6 different hats. So everything I've heard as to what other people had faced when starting a business, it's come true 100%. There is a mental aspect, a mental health aspect of it as well. I mean, you just find yourself going down rabbit holes, even further down rabbit holes than you were when you were with a big box. So it's hard, but you manage, and it's why we did it. It's why we got into sales. It's why we got into recruiting. As Monica mentioned, I love speaking to people. So that's been it for me. It's been lonely. That's a good word.
For me, I feel like I've had a few different iterations of this in different ways. So first business that I started was with a business partner. Shout out to Alan Spackman. It was so great to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, to be able to divide and conquer and things like that. But it was still lonely when we started out, the two of us, because we were very insulated, and our mindsets were the only things that we had to really go on. So nice to be able to lean on someone, but still, it's still a lonely thing. And grew that, started to build a team, and that became much more fun. And we started to see the benefits of that. We sold it in January of 2019, so a year before COVID, which felt like when COVID hit, it was such a relief to not be in that situation. And then to go to one of the biggest recruitment companies in the world. It was such a different, like, there was so much relief because there were people, there were teams, you were constantly busy. You had local office. I was traveling to all the other offices across Canada all the time. So it was sort of the exact opposite experience. And I would say where I am now is kind of best of both worlds. So I have the entrepreneurial side. We have a parent company that owns Greenlight Tech Staffing, with a huge amount of depth of knowledge, experience. They've scaled businesses before. So I have the ability to lean on the CEO, and we work collaboratively together while we maintain our own individual brand, and we get to operate as our own entity. So it's kind of best of both worlds. That being said, I am in Calgary. The entire team is in Toronto. So again, there's a lonely aspect to that. I mean, there are times I go to a coffee shop to work just so I can see other humans throughout my day. When I don't have my kids, like I realize, wait a minute, I haven't left my house in 2 days. So the reality of I do miss that interaction. And part of what we're building as far as the team culture in Toronto, as we're scaling and hiring right now, we're starting with a hybrid model where they have to go into the office. They need to experience that together, because there's so much collaboration and learning that happens in that way. And I'm super jealous that I don't get to be a part of that on a weekly basis. But it is what it is. I also love my commute. I mean, great coffee. I do have a work partner. She's around here somewhere. She's very hairy, a golden doodle. But yeah, don't feel too sad for me.
No, I mean, but it's interesting that so the experiential element of it being a bit lonely is certainly one thing. From a sales element, though, I personally am seeing out there that a lot in a tough market like this, people who are relying on older tactics, or tactics where you're less authentic, like you said, Ian, or where you're less yourself, less human, as both you, Monica, and Kevin pointed out, right, with people, and consistent and being like really present. I feel like the personal branding element seems to be working, not just the brand, but the personal branding, like as a recruiter, as a salesperson, having a version of your authentic self that you bring to work, not only in your, social media, but your outreach and all this kind of stuff. Do you feel like that's different being entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, than being in a big business? Is it just come with the territory? Do you also find that's working better out there?
Being human?
Yeah, and finding a way to be your real self in your
Yes,
even.
I think that's the only way to do it. And I think that's the only way to do it. And the faster you can do it, the more authentically, the better. And a lot of times you do that through, I don't know, maybe even sharing simple things like, oh, you want to hear how being an entrepreneur is? It's freaking lonely. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that's real. It's not like I need 7 figures and and all the ads that you see on Instagram about how you should quit your day job and go do whatever. At least I get those ads, but it's not like that. And I think the faster you can just be super real with people, or guess what? I call my friends that I was in business with before, and we talk about business stuff, but it's not really. And that's how I waste my time. People are probably going to believe what I say if I talk about that stuff that's not sunshines and rainbows, even though that's where I like to play. It's you gain their trust faster. And like going back to what I said before, is I really try and be a drone around. I listen for people's pain. I listen for subtleties. I try and read between the lines, especially to like any new cold call, cold people, whatever. I'm like, what's the pain here? And then I'm like, oh, let me see if I can help make that better. To Julie's point, maybe it's a contractor for me, I'm like, what is something that I can drop that's memorable, that actually solves a little of their pain today? I don't have an agenda here. We're connected. And what is it? The enthusiasm dropping? What is it? Transfer of enthusiasm.
Transfer of enthusiasm, yeah.
What I'm doing while I'm doing.
When I was really early in my recruitment career, we had these really strict KPIs and had to get in front of clients, and I was short on my actual like face-to-face visits for a week, and it was a rainy day, and I picked up the phone. I was talking to a client, and they talked to me about the fact that they forgot their umbrella, and that they were really worried about their commute home because it had started raining after they got to work. So we had company branded umbrellas. So didn't say anything. I went through the call, whatever, and I went to their office, asked if she was available, like no expectation. I was just going to drop it if she wasn't, but she was available. She came out and was so thankful, and just like finding little meaningful things. I don't know. That was just
surprise and delight. Being surprised and delight. That's
I was just trying to be delicious. That's all.
You're being delicious as hell, man. Delicious AF.
That was so delicious. This is the most delicious umbrella ever.
One other thing that I'll just add to that too is you don't, for the personal branding side and authenticity and all that stuff, you don't have to be an entrepreneur for that. That starts at any point in time. Like you can do that in a big company. You can do that in so many different ways. There's limitations and there's parameters and all of those things, but nothing is stopping you from leaving a voicemail that is authentically you, that is, doing something that is authentically you, that will make a difference and resonate with somebody. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to do that. You don't have to start your own business to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I can say for the last year or so, I've been trying my best to get out of my comfort zone. Because I know that being with a big box or a bigger company, you didn't really need, I mean, that's a stretch, but you didn't really need to push yourself, because yourself was your productivity and your interactions. But speaking to a few people that I industry wise, they kept on telling me, people like doing business with you, but why don't we see more of you? And now that I've started my business and, I'm literally lonely, I am trying my best to share me to everybody. And it's kind of like, I'm not trying to be egotistical here, but it is like, I'm just trying to give everybody a little piece of who I am, why you should do business with me, why I've done business for X amount of years, why I've been successful, why other people like me. And sometimes for anybody in sales, it's a little bit hard, it's a little bit hard to hear yourself speaking out loud. Maybe I'm old school. But no, I think that back to the personal branding part, I think that we all need to do a better job. I think it's just the way the industry and society works these days, and keeping up with the trends of that in business and the way it works is super important. But it's also important for you, right? I think just to be humble about who you are and be genuine. And I think that resonates with people as well. So.
And I think to add to that, I think it's the common thread of who you are. Sometimes we be afraid to be us. Sometimes we're like, especially new salespeople are like, oh, what's the script? What do I got to say? What do I got to do? And if you, and I bet all three of you, if the four of us went out after this to a happy hour or dinner or whatever, it would be the same. This would be the same. Yeah. Selling to me would be the same as our dinner, as our happy hour, or whatever else we would do. And I think that is one of the key elements, and people can smell that a mile away. Based on what Ian was saying before, is that they can tell when you're not being authentic. But if you're the same person on this call, you're the same person with your family, with your friends, with your everything that you do, that is the beauty of how we're each different. And I think if salespeople or recruiters, whatever, if you can land on how just who you are, the essence of you, and let that come out consistently. Don't drop it and leave. People don't like that. Like Kevin was saying, they're upset because they don't hear from you enough. That means you're really good.
Yeah.
Anybody ever says you don't reach out to me enough, they're pissed because you didn't. They like you. You should reach out.
that's part of this whole purpose-driven leadership concept. I don't know if you guys have done any reading on that, but really finding your purpose. And your purpose isn't your work purpose or your home purpose or your family purpose. It's your purpose in general. Did a bunch of work on that in my previous life, previous role, previous company. And you know, for me, it took a while to really come through, like, okay, what is my actual purpose? And then it's very vulnerable when you have to articulate it to people, because
That's right.
you hope that it resonates with them because it's what you feel resonates with you. But I mean, I'll be vulnerable. I'll share what mine is. My purpose is to create an environment where people can show up as their best selves. That is who I am as a father. It's who I am as a leader at work, as a salesperson. I'm a musician on the side too. So as a musician, that's how I approach things, and that permeates everything that I do. So, you know, if I'm not that way in a sales meeting, or if I'm not that way in a situation in my life, I feel the discrepancy. Like, I feel that something's not right, and it helps me get back into alignment with who I really am. And so when you can identify that, you're able to then go into these situations where you might be tempted to shift who you are, or adjust for a situation. And not to say that you can't adapt, but at the core, people resonate with your purpose, with your, like, who you are as a human being, your authenticity. So it's a way to kind of keep aligned with that.
I love it.
I think that's great. And I think it's true in a way. Like you mentioned, adjusting who you are and so on. I certainly did that for years and years, right? I was someone who was doing arts and music and writing fiction and having a record label and whatever else, and showing up and selling tech at PC Mall, Mac Mall, the California Mac Mall company that famously was selling more Mac than Steve Jobs when he got kicked out of Apple for a little while back 20 years ago, just to date myself. But anyway, but I was doing that for a few years before I found staffing. But I was like, you know, I'm not gonna be the musician guy, the arty guy at work. They don't want that, you know. They want a little bit of it. I'll say I play instruments, but I'm not gonna really. So, but you're always giving people just part of yourself, right? And I think that the purpose-driven approach is interesting because it puts the best parts of you first, right? Which is cool. But it's funny. It's like, to try to avoid saying something that will be misunderstood or embarrassing or the wrong thing. Trying to prevent that, you also prevent a lot of really great connection with people along the way, because you're only giving a part of yourself that you think is appropriate and censoring part of yourself, which is weird to say. Like, if you can somehow show up with your whole self to your sales job or whatever else, stuff just kind of magically happens. And magically, you know, you build rapport with people for real much more easily.
And you won't be everybody's cup of tea. Like, this isn't a magic bullet that like you will now be able to do sales with every company that you ever touch. It's, you become aligned with the people that you should be doing business with. When I had my company before, business partner and I, we just gravitated to very different companies. Alan really loved the small to medium startups. I loved the bigger organizations where I could get in and mushroom and build relationships and multiple roles over years of relationship. And so we never said, okay, well, you have to do this and I have to do that. We just went to the places that resonated with us, that felt like, okay, I'm at my best in this situation. And if there was a situation that came in, a client that came in where I was like, I don't think that's me, I would give it to him, and vice versa. And some of it is really a big part of entrepreneurship. And if you have a partner or a team, is being okay with not being great at everything. Not everything is, at the beginning, you have to wear all the hats, you have to do all the things. But once you start to team up or bring people to the organization, it's okay to not like or be good at something and give that to somebody else to do, so you can operate where you are most efficient, where you're most satisfied, and where, you know, it's resonating the most with you.
It's also, I'll drop a little Ayurveda in here. And I think, Rick, we talked about this last time, is when you're not letting yourself be you, it actually creates suffering. Mm-hmm. It creates mental suffering because you're resisting the very thing that you're put here for. And so, simple example, is like the essence of you. I know that sounds a little woo-gee, but just bear with me for a second. The essence of you and who you are and the way you do things and the way you talk, the way you look, the way you be, like all of that is like, think about the element of water. Water is always wet. Water has to always be wet. It runs, it seeps, it goes, it does all the characteristics of what water does. Water can't be dry ever. Fire is always hot. So fire is always going to be hot. It can't ever be ice. Fire is not ice, not going to be. And so I know that's a simple example and maybe a little out there, but if you think about the things that you do best, that feel most like you, like you're like, I feel so in my skin, do that all the time in whatever way that is. I cannot be a salesperson that picks up a phone and reads a script. I would die. I would die.
I would like to see that, Monica, based on your personality.
So
I'd love to hear that script.
I can't even read
Just
a script.
saying.
It's so bad. So, but I did, like, when I was a brand new recruiter, I tap danced across somebody's email because they wouldn't get back to me. And I didn't know what else to do. I was a designer before this, by the way, so I have a creative background. So I was on their email. I was like, tap, tap, tippy, tap. Pretend I'm tap dancing past your office door. My colleagues were like, you did not send that. I was like, yes, I did. And they hired the person. I was like, can you just pay attention because they're really good and she needs a job and I know she'd be so good for your team. Tappy, tap, tap, tap. And they were like, no way, you didn't do that. I was about 3 months into being a recruiter, brand new recruiter, and I sent that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I started personally writing things. We did a training with Julie and company with this guy in the UK whose name I forget now. It was like 5 years ago. And he was saying the same thing, but he was like trying to say from a personal branding perspective, he's like, be different. It's okay. Like, don't do things the same way. Do things your way. So I started writing everything as little pieces of personal nonfiction, you know? Like creative nonfiction. So like my LinkedIn still to this day is chapters instead of jobs. So my first job is chapter 1 and then chapter 2. And on my LinkedIn, when you see the job, I barely talk about the job. I mostly talk about what was happening in my life at that point and why I was no good at that job, why I ended up leaving or whatever. And it resonates with people who read it. For creative agencies, I started writing my blurbs. We stopped doing this because they were long, but as little short stories. It got one person a job, right? Like, you know what I mean? So just trying to be different. It's not everyone's cup of tea, though, and that's okay. It's really hard, though, when you're in sales to not think of every single attempt to get business as important. I didn't get that business. I'm a failure somehow. It's way easier to manage the rejection when you don't even see it as a rejection, where you're just kind of, you know what I mean? Like the whole resilience thing, like you gotta have grit. So many people are going to say no to you and it's going to burn your soul up. But if you're strong enough, you can strap yourself through it. It's like, you don't even really need to get that hardcore about it at all, in my opinion. Right. Because it's like, so what if you don't need all the business? You don't want all the business.
Right. Yeah. What's your guys' perspective on, you know, how sales is a numbers game. You got to hit the numbers. Sales is a numbers game. I've never played that game. I'm always like, sales is a fun game. And I'm only going to talk to people that I like and do business with people I like. That's my perspective. What's your guys' perspective on, like, sales is a numbers game, but be authentically yourself and have your personal brand and only work with the people that are great? What would you say to somebody that's kind of caught in between those two things?
This is a real hot topic for me. I mean, I led a sales team for a huge recruitment firm for about 5 years and cultivated sales teams. And their mantra was everybody's. You have to, you know, the reverse pyramid of you have X amount of contacts, you have X amount of visits, and that relates to this many recs and then a start. I just never believed in. I never believed in that that process. So it was hard for me to teach people that way of thinking. And the reason why I never really believed in it is because I always looked at every contact I made as being genuine. Like I needed it to be like, it's not a robot behind email. We can get into that later. But it's me, and I'm following up, and here's me saying something that's like not a robot. Like it's, hey, today's Thursday. How is your Thursday going? You know what I mean? And so it's hard. I think early days in a sales career, it's good to build that structure as to like what you should do, how you should do it, and all that stuff. But I think that as time goes on and you build tenure, you gain confidence in what you're doing. You really need to pivot, and you really need to, again, like this whole conversation has been about being yourself. And I think people like stick to that, and they it attracts people more, right? But I mean, and here's another story. I mean, about I guess AI, or I guess robotics and moving into emails being automated and stuff. I hated that, just because I knew it could probably reach the most people, but then are those quality contacts, right? Have they been like, have you uncovered exactly what the needs are with those people? How many times do we get contacts like that and we just delete, right? And I never liked that. I never liked that feeling of it. And so I know that as we speak today, and Chat GPT and AI is all the buzz, um, it's going to take some time, but I think we'll get there, to use those tools and ways of thinking a little bit more. But I just really like the being authentic approach. It takes more time. Don't get me wrong. It takes more time, but then, hey, if your time's not worth something, then make it worth something. Say it with your chest, right? And be purposeful, like everything that we were talking about in this call. And I think it'll make waves.
I think that there's there's a few different approaches, right? Like if you're in a big company, you come in, you've got a database of existing candidates, existing prospects that you've got to kind of go through and cultivate. You're not going to resonate with every single client that's there, but you still have to work with them. And so I think being able to identify, if a client is they just want a transactional relationship, you're not going to change that. Chances are, maybe you do, but if you go in with the expectation that, oh, I want them to love me and just love the core of who I am and think that I'm delicious and all of those things, that's probably not going to happen. So if your expectation is there, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah. So, having that mindset of like, this is a transactional, I'm going to meet my client where they're at, still being myself, but I'm going to have more of a transactional relationship with this person. Identifying the ones where there is more of a relationship, and if that's what you like and resonates with you, then they really build into those ones. Where it's different is in the prospecting side. And so, if you've got enough clients that you don't need to prospect, good on you. But chances are you're probably going to need to always be prospecting. So when you're prospecting, that's where I think you can be a little bit more picky. Like do the best that you can to go after organizations that have meaning to you, or where you think that there might be opportunities to have that alignment. Not everything is going to be that, though. So like it's okay you don't have to adjust yourself, but you have to adjust your expectations of what that relationship is going to be like. So just being mindful of that. Not every client relationship is going to be all of your hopes and dreams. And our job is to adjust how we need to make it easy to buy from us. And if every time you talk to a client that wants to be transactional, you're like, how are your kids doing? What happened on your last vacation?
Creepy at that point.
There's a point where you get to know somebody and then you mirror what they need.
Yeah.
There's a point where you get to knowing period, right? Like get to know, and then Monica Bloom's teaching breathwork or whatever. Not necessarily, but you know what I'm saying? You're bringing your flair, and then you find out they hate that stuff. So you're like, oh, then I'll give you what you need. And you kind of mirror. And that's what, and then they start to feel comfortable with you because you're actually delivering what they need from a place of service and care, not because at that point, your personal brand needs to be the only way you do things, but it's service and it's mirroring. And it's like, oh, if you want to just be transactional, I'm here for service. So I'll just make this as fast as possible. And as part of my service, I make this real easy. 1, 2, 3, we don't even got to talk. In fact, we never need to talk. You don't want to talk? We don't have to. I will do whatever magic in the background. So you never have to talk to me. Will that make you happy? Yes, please. Great.
Yep.
And mirroring, even to the point, one thing that I found specifically when prospecting is mirroring how your client talks to you.
Yeah.
If they talk really fast, you better talk fast.
Yep.
If they talk slow and methodically, talk slow and like that mirroring, man, that has such a big impact, because if it's not the same, that's where awkwardness, and then you get awkward and they get awkward, and it's just this cycle of awkwardness. But yeah, mirroring is the key.
I will say this much, and I agree with you guys in terms of adapting to the style in which your audience is wanting to be spoken to. I always take it as a personal challenge, though, to really, really dig deep in terms of getting through all that, getting through that wall. And this is kind of what we spoke about earlier, right? Like it's like, okay, I'll deal with you right now, and we'll go chop, 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 chop suey right now, but later on, I will start talking about your kids.
Yeah,
And
or
you're going to be
whatever.
okay with that because I've built up that relationship to a point where I get it. This is transactional. Okay. But we're human. Okay.
Mhm.
I had a bad day. I spilled coffee in my white shirt, things like that. And I think that I take it as, but maybe I shouldn't, but I do. And I think that those people that I've kept in touch with over time, they're some of my best clients now, right? Like, not only do I know how to put the business hat on, and I know how to, okay, you need this, no problem. But then they're like, hey, Kevin, I had this guy. He's a close friend of mine. Could you get him work too? And then it just the tension, the guard is all down, and I know like it's really healthy at that point. So yes, I mean I agree with the adapting, but I want to go through that all the time, all the time.
For sure. I think the adapting is key until the time is right. Some people are just not ready to open up, but it doesn't mean you can't do business with them, right? And then when they're ready, some people it's like the first second you talk to them, they're just kind of like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, let me talk to you about everything."
They're not ready
Uh,
to get hurt again. They've been hurt too many times by
yeah,
recruiters.
exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
On the topic of numbers game, Monica, the thing is, I really like numbers and data and systems, right? Like I was voluntarily the bullhorn admin at my first agency that I ever worked at. I volunteered to do that and set it up and whatever when we migrated. I love that stuff. But I just think that people don't have a very I feel like they have tunnel vision about what numbers they're talking about when they say it's a numbers game. You know? I
Mhm.
think that like casting a wide net and then seeing who responds back to you and then talking to those people is usually what they mean by a numbers game. Make a lot of cold calls, send a lot of emails sequenced, and then but in a way you're kind of reactive to the ones who get back to you. Now you have a ton of people who've gotten back to you, but you haven't really selected them, right? You haven't really chased them. So it might not get you the right response. People are always like, "Oh, look at the response rate we got from this campaign. The response rate's much better, so the content must be better." And I'm like, "Well, not necessarily, because who's responding, right? Like who's responding is much more important than how many of them are responding."
Mhm.
So you know what I mean? Like it depends on what numbers. I feel like nowadays I'm getting the impression that a reverse funnel, reaching out to fewer people and then going out a little bit, but reaching out to them multiple times, having different kinds of touch points and being in their periphery and networking with fewer but very targeted people and getting only a couple of them to come back. It's still numbers, but you're like, how many outreaches do I need to do to one person to get them to get in a process? 10,
That's
15? It's still numbers. It's just different approach of numbers, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. Like even back in the day, they used to have this. So I was in creative staffing because I was a designer, packaging designer before, and there was a package, is a biodegradable potato chip bag. And I thought that was so cool. And I was like, oh, a biodegradable potato chip bag. That's so neat. And so what I did is I reached out to all the clients that I was or was not doing business with. I didn't really care, but I thought this chip bag was so freaking cool that it just composted for our conversation before. But anyways,
Exactly.
I sent that out and I was like, hey, I saw this compostable bag. I thought this was so cool, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I placed designers that actually can design bags like this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I
Yeah.
represent them. Do you need anything? And it's like hitting that familiar thing that they might care about, even though I don't know who they are. I can see where you work. I know what you make. So if I see something like that in the world that I think is cool that you might want to know about, I'm going to share that. That was my style of, I guess, kind of like the sharpshooting, right? Like high quality, really narrow. But then you got to do your wide net also. I think both.
Especially
What
the
do you guys
beginning.
think about both? Like all like numbers and like narrow.
And I'm a big data person. Love data. Absolutely love data. I'm not necessarily driven by data, but I use data to say, okay, where are the roadblocks here? what are the activities that we're doing that are working and what's not, and maybe why isn't that working. And so the numbers for me give some insight into, okay, where are the actual roadblocks that we're seeing? Are we not reaching out to enough people? Like, are we being too granular? Are we being too focused, or should we open it up a little bit more? Are we getting roles but we're not filling them? Are we talking to candidates but not getting interviews? Like, what are all the different aspects that are freezing us up? And that's what I like to use the data for. It's not a like a whip to say, you got to get this done or you're never going to succeed. It's we have the volume that we need, but we're not seeing the success. So let's use the data to pick it apart and say, here's the roadblocks, here's what we can do to pivot and be creative with it. So then it's not a like, oh, you should be doing more. It's like, okay, something's not working here.
Yeah.
What's our process? How can we make this better?
For sure. And like, who are we attracting? I find that is very seldom. It comes up very seldom, right? It's like, if you could make 5 placements, but if all 5 placements happened kind of by default and the client was like, yeah, I guess we'll hire this guy because we have to, or whatever else, you never really are hitting the mark. You know what I mean? Is that something you can truly like scale and expand on? Like, are you doing a good job, or are you just getting lucky a little bit? You know what I mean? There's a lot there.
Mhm.
I think qualitative measurements exist. I think a lot of people are big on quantitative measurements and stats, but I think you can also ask questions about, like, how many of these placements that stuck? Like, our fall off ratio is 25%. That's kind of average. No, it's screw that. Like, it could be better if you focus on the quality. So I just think, like, it really depends on the numbers. And now more than ever, everybody can do quantity. Get any AI tool. Anybody can do all the quantity forever in 2 seconds at the push of a button. I personally, and this is a great finishing topic, perhaps, because somehow it's already been an hour, you guys. It's amazing. Time flies with awesome guests. But the AI question, to me, it takes a lot of things off our plate, right? About the grind, about just getting quantity out there. I think it's an opportunity to focus on the more human pieces of it and maybe train people on that, and maybe hire differently, even like who we would hire as a recruiter or a salesperson, in my opinion, could change. How do you guys feel about that as maybe an opportunity to do things a little differently?
Yeah, I mean, looking for sales talent, something that I guess all of us have done at one point in time. But what I used to do in my interviews and just kind of, finding out if somebody had that grit or what have you, was pivot the conversation totally. Like, I'm not here to, like, you can't sell a salesperson, right? I want to go into who you are, what motivates you on a personal level. And again, bring all kinds of human aspects into conversations. Also, what that does, it really reduces the amount of stress and tension in a conversation of an interview or a client call, right? But I want to know what motivates you. And once I find that out, I feel like that's a really good indicator as to like how somebody would perform, at least early days, right? Are they willing? Do they have the aptitude to just try something new, put themselves out there? But when it comes to clients and just really diving into that relationship, and I think that you really just need to start asking the questions and getting in front of them. I honestly miss that. I miss that aspect, and COVID really put a stint on that for a lot of people. I think once you can see the expressions in somebody's face, first of all, if they're making time for you, that's a great indication as to like, hey, like if they're making time for you more than a call, they actually have to sit there in front of your face and listen to you. It means something. And I really think that's what I go for. That's what I tell my sales teams to really focus on. Because again, it's substance, it's quality, and it's bringing human back.
I think that AI for specific functions is great, right? Like lead generation, drafting, emails or certain things that can give you just like that speed of being able to create what you want to create without having to take a lot of time to get it out there. But as for like qualification and discovery, AI is not the tool, at least not as it stands right now, right?
Yeah.
Like getting your foot in the door, AI can really help us with that. once your foot's in the door, the human aspect I think is super important, and we can't abdicate that responsibility and that approach to really be that human authentic self that we've been talking about, right? If we're gonna have an authentic human interaction with somebody, it can't be all AI. Parts of it can be, but I think that there's parts that AI are really good. It's a tool in the toolbox. It's not the toolbox itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've trained mine really good.
Your best friend, ChatGPT.
She's my freaking best friend. She's
She's delicious.
so smart. Holy crap. Anyway, but what I use mine a lot. Well, I'm a writer and content creator and all of that stuff. So I will use it for that. As far as my interactions with actual people, I do not. However, I have used it for sticky situations. For example, getting my book back.
Oh yeah, do tell.
And being like, write this like illegal, whatever. Can you please? I would like, too legal, sounds cold, kind of scary, rewrite it. Like really training it and ask it for what you want. I've used it for that. And I've also used it for other things to smooth my words, whether it's communicating with my readers or whatever. I've done that, but also I ask her to put a little magic into it. Can you spank it up with a little sass? Like I really use a lot of adjectives. That's like me. And I have populated it with my content. Like, here is how I write.
Yep.
Remember this. And then she's like, oh, okay. Do you want me to write it in Hey Monica B style? Yes, write it like that. So look, I'm not in staffing anymore. I probably would not use it that much, with the exception of like maybe like a batch newsletter or something that was coming from me to maybe a job blast or something like that, or even a client, client sales outreach, maybe something like that, but it still has to feel really freaking human. And I always write it first. I just don't write it polished necessarily, because now I don't have to. I can be like, here's all my ideas. Can you make that better? And then she does.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've ever asked ChatGPT to spank up anything, but I might actually try that.
Maybe like spark it up a little bit. Like she's very magical. She's like, you want me to like sass it up? You want me more playful? You want magic? Spank it up, whatever. I don't even know what she says half the time, but she's just like on another planet.
Sidebar, Monica, if ever you were gonna choose to put out an old school hip hop album of original music, Hey Monica B Style would be a very good name. I'm just saying. Hey Monica B Style is the name of your old school hip hop album.
Do we do that? Except it's not old school, it's now school?
Now school, yeah. Not Hey Monica B Style is just an exceptional hip hop album name, old school hip hop style album.
I would be
That's
so
fantastic.
happy with that.
I heard it came out of your mouth and I was like, my God, how is that not a record that exists already? Thanks so much, you guys. We're a little over time, and I thank you for staying over time. I think anybody who's still listening now, and also, if you missed this live and you're watching this on or you catch this on YouTube or LinkedIn, remember that you can always just listen to this on anywhere that you find your podcast, Spotify and Apple Music and all manner of podcast distribution. In fact, if you go to a podcast place and you cannot find it, hit me up, because you should be able to. So I want to fix that. I want to fix that right away. Thank you very much, Monica, Ian, and Kevin. I would love to have all of you back anytime. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.